Hello everyone and welcome to WhatCulture Gaming. I'm Josh, joined today by Scott because happy Death Stranding Day. The game is finally out tomorrow, is in your hands, or more specifically my letterbox, because I currently don't have it and will be playing it after work. But this guy stayed up to the mad hours of the early morn and has been playing the game. And Scott, what is this game?
I'm not going to lie.
I still don't really know.
It's weird, right? Because I stayed away from the vast majority of reviews because I didn't want things spoiled. I didn't watch a whole bunch of the cutscenes that came out before. I didn't watch Kojima's big old 45-minute gameplay demo, other than dipping in to a couple of different spots. But I think that the thing that's worth outlining is that basically this game, the whole point of this video, I think, is to get across the fact that this isn't like the vast majority of anything else that you've played. And the general vibes that I got from the first, I've only played it for just over 2 hours, which is the vast majority is cutscene, but we can get into that stuff, world building and everything else. But the major thing with this, because you do sort of do a good sort of 20 minutes to half an hour of exploration, the vast majority of that time was literally walking forward. L2 and R2 are your left arm and your right arm, Assassin's Creed kind of style, in terms of mapping limbs to buttons. And you were just trying to carry cargo. You can hold one of the buttons to rewrite yourself, and then he does it again, and the thing pops on the screen and says, "Oh, you're falling over again." You can press both buttons together to grab his little straps, which is what I totally recommend, tips and tricks. You can grab both the straps at the same time and just just charge forward. But the vibe that I got was very Breath of the Wild, and very
That's
Mario 64, very Tomb Raider, very it's like if you like games that sort of tackle a 3D space in terms of all the things that come alongside that, in terms of the gameplay is the 3D space, how am I going to get up there, or just the general sort of sensibility of, do you enjoy looking at gorgeous environments and then just tackling them? If you've ever devoted half an hour to climbing a mountain in Skyrim, this is the game for you.
Well, that's fascinating to me, because when we've been obviously watching the previews and dipping into the trailers and stuff, all of the gameplay has just been that. And a lot of people sort of wrote the game off because they keep saying, where is the game? But to me, like you mentioned there, Breath of the Wild, a huge part of that game's appeal for me is just exploring this space and figuring out how to get up that mountain in the distance and trying to get there in the journey of that. Whether that can support a 100-hour game, if that's all there is, I don't know. But to me, that is an awesome kind of gameplay hook that a lot of games just sort of take for granted. They just let you press one button and get to your destination, and they don't really revel in the sort of minutiae and the sort of peaks and troughs of how difficult it is to just sort of conquer a game space.
Well, the thing is, Andy Murray on the Wrestling Channel, he picked it up because he loves a bit of hiking, and he's like, I'm going to get it as American hiking simulator or whatever. And there is a lot of that. There's a genuine element of peril that I think it reminds me of Tomb Raider in that sort of sense that anything can go wrong. You can just fall off the side of something, bin off all the things that you had on your back, and little babies cry, son's crying and all that. And it's at some point you end up playing it way more carefully than you ever would before. And it reminds me, like I said, of Tomb Raider when it came to you're conquering a 3D space, you're climbing up this thing. That's kind of just meant to be the gameplay. But for me, one of the things that stands out the most is the amount of music that's in it. I mean, they released the official. There's an official album called Timefall that has a whole bunch of new songs, Bring Me the Horizon and Churches and whatever. Major Lazer.
It's pretty good.
It's a really good soundtrack, to be honest. But there is also a playlist as well in terms of all the songs that are in the game. And they just come on randomly. He has a Walkman on him, but you'll just be walking along, and this song by Low Raw will just sort of kick in, just underneath in the background. And that's the whole thing. I think that's entirely what he's going for, is this sort of just slow, melancholic, just general sort of meditation on being isolated in this space and trying to bring people back together. It's obviously what the marketing materials are going for, but I think the thing that they haven't necessarily nailed that much is just how much you need to be up for that. You need to be up for drinking in big, the dude that did The Revenant, Alejandro Inarritu. He's got another name in the middle of it, but that dude, the general cinematography in that movie, where it's just sort of big sweeping planes, it's kind of the stuff that you come across in Red Dead 2 as well, where it's oh my god, the sheer scope and scale of the place that I'm in, and just loving that sort of general space. That's entirely what he's going for. The opening credits completely sell that, and you have this other voice from Norman Reedus, the same quote from the old trailer where he's there was an explosion, now there's one, and it's separated us and whatever. That's what he's going for, is this big sort of expansive pastoral landscape thing.
Yeah.
I'm totally for that.
Well, I am too, and it's sort of been divisive in the office. We have, of course, been talking about this game more or less every single day in the past week in the run-up to launch, and half of the office is sort of committed to this weird idea. We can find the banter in sort of losing all of your materials after a boss fight, just having them scattered, looking out and thinking, was it worth it? Probably not. Gonna have to collect them all, climb back up this mountain, sort your ladder out.
At the very beginning, after the first cutscene's done, you immediately you get to play as Sam straight away and get to the first checkpoint. At the very beginning, when you walk forward, you can totally just almost fall right off the cliff. It's right there.
I'm gonna do it.
Which is great.
I'm gonna do it.
And I didn't do it, and because when you walk forward, there's momentum to everything. So when you walk forward, it pops up and says you can L2 R2 again with your arms. You can stop yourself. You can like grab himself and stop. But the cliff edge is right there, and I'm sure people are going to fall right over. Another thing that happens is it pulls in other equipment from other players.
Yeah.
So if someone's like dropped something, it'll show up on your screen as lost cargo. You can then deliver that for more likes, more currency, and you'll come across different ladders and stuff like that. What was the thing you were going to ask?
I can't remember, but it's so intriguing to me that you described there. A lot of people have sort of looked at this game and kind of said, you know, is this fun? But the movies you sort of compared the game to, I wouldn't argue are sort of fun either. Like some of my favorite movies of all time, Requiem for a Dream, for instance. I don't sit down to watch that and think, I'm going to have a rollicking, fun, light-hearted good time. You know, it's a harrowing, difficult watch. And that's not making an excuse for it or trying to be sort of pretentious or wanky or whatever. Just some approaches to kind of like art, or whether it's film or video games, like fun isn't sort of like the be-all and end-all.
No.
If it's done well in what they're going for, like they nail. If Hideo Kojima comes out and makes a total mess of all these mechanics and they're not fun and also not engaging and not thematically linked together, that would be a problem. But it sounds like he's committed to this sort of idea, and the rest of his team, of course, and sort of just fully embraced it. And
Yeah. I mean, the thing that came out of, 'cause obviously on Phantom Pain, like the general sort of movement and the animation in that game was really snappy. Like when you would kick into a sprint, or you would jump on top of like the horse, or like the general sort of way the combat worked, the animations, the climbing animations, it was all really snappy and like in a way that prioritized just sort of expediency over motion capture, which I'm totally for. In this, it kind of feels like the same thing. Like I said, you're breaking into sprints, you're clambering up stuff really fast. You can force Sam to go in directions that you want him to go, even if the terrain doesn't necessarily dictate it, which means that he will just sort of like scramble over, but he'll kind of get there. But I think that results in a sort of almost arcadey kind of feel to the way that you climb and mantle, and like, you know, you're always sort of like stumbling and hitting the different buttons and stuff. Like you're almost playing one constant mini game to keep him standing. Death Standing.
Death Standing.
That's
pretty good.
And so there is stuff like that where I think that like every time one of the cutscenes kicked back in, I was like, I just want to get back out there and I want to do more stuff.
Right. This is my big question, because I love Metal Gear Solid 5 and Phantom Pain, but I am hesitant to ever replay that game again because the opening hour, for my money, is just a slog. It's this sort of on rails thing. It's very sort of, you know, scripted and heavy on the storytelling, and that could be fine. But it gives you the illusion of gameplay, and that you're just essentially, like you said, with Death Stranding, you're just pushing forward and you're watching this thing happen. For my money, that would have been better as just sort of, you know, a big cutscene that I didn't have control of. I would have been able to reconcile with that more. What I worry about Death Stranding, and actually the reason I didn't stay up last night to play it, is because I'm worried the first couple of hours will sort of funnel you down the same kind of route where it's not fun, but not in an engaging way. It's not fun because you're just kind of being subjected to the game. The game is happening to you, and you kind of have control, but also no control.
It's more like the opening of Metal Gear Solid 3. Like it's more just here's a big cutscene, a whole bunch cutscene, tiny little gameplay sliver, and then a whole bunch more cutscene. Because you are doing missions. Like in Death Stranding, you are delivering stuff. Like I said, you get to play straight away, but then it takes it away from you. Big old cutscene. Go deliver this thing. You do that. Big old cutscene. And so like everything's kind of bookended, but they're drip feeding in the mechanics as well. Like the whole thing with the BTs, with the spirit ghost things, they're teaching you how to sort of avoid them. You use like the radar to sort of point out where they are, and you sneak past them and stuff. So there's a lot of that. But I mean, it's weird. I think one of the things to hammer home in terms of like, are you going to like this game, is that you need to be more up for something like a Requiem for a Dream, something more like high fantasy. You need to have, well, you don't need to, but if you've ever watched just anime in general or comics, like, you know, just the general sort of like the worlds that like the vast majority of those mediums build, where they ask more of you as a person to invest. They have more in terms of like originality. Like, you know, they're not playing by our rules in terms of like this physical reality. They're just going for like, yeah, this person can fly now, or like, you know, the rocks float over here, or like, by the way, like in this game, like, oh, there's a crypto bio, which is like this little bug. It's the thing that Leia Sadu was eating in the second trailer, and she literally just eats a bug because when it rains, the rain is time. So when it rains, time falls. So if literally there's a raindrop lands on Norman Reedus' head, and where it lands, all those hairs go grey. So rain is time.
Right. I
can go with that.
This is the strange thing, because me and you have been looking forward to this game like so long, for so many years, and you've been definitely on the sort of camp that's tried to, you piece everything together, being all in on the lore, being like looking at all the details. I've been hyped, but when it comes to sort of stuff like Timefall or that little bug you just mentioned that I've already forgotten the name of, like, I think I approach it in a slightly different way, but maybe one that isn't necessarily so bad because I'm up for it. Just I think that hopefully this means it will have a broader appeal than maybe we're expecting, because we're both hyped but from slightly different angles. What I do want to ask you though, I have only jumped into other reviews and they all say that the game, only really gets good after 10 hours. So if you're
it's good
loving
for the
it
moment
now,
one.
yes.
I mean, the thing is, like, one of the things that I get, because I listened to a couple of different podcasts that had a bit of a rant about it and stuff, and a lot of it just kind of felt like they didn't really know what they were getting into, and I think some of that is on behalf of Sony. I think that they've sold this as this major first-party kind of action game. They've shown Sam running around shooting the different characters, shooting the mules or the enemies in the game, and shown these sort of like big demons and stuff like that, and they've kind of sold it in a way that I don't think belies what it actually is. It reminds me of when Bloodborne came out, and a lot of the top comments on social media on their Facebook posts and Twitter posts were like, oh my god, this game is not this big hack and slash action fest. It's a way more considered, brutal, test of your patience kind of thing. And Death Stranding reminds me of that. I think that if you're up for this high fantasy, high concept thing, authored by a guy that clearly has a lot to say about the state of the world, doesn't always pull it off. For me, the script is easily the weakest thing in this. Not the whole way through, but there's some lines in this that are hilarious. Stuff in something that they haven't had in the marketing materials at all that I still won't spoil is Sam's real name. And what they do with that is hilarious. Hilarious. Stupid. Brilliant. Stupid.
Yeah.
Kojima. And there's a lot of that, but it's like you need to go in with that sort of sensibility of like, remembering when Sony were weird, when they had those like really stupid PlayStation adverts about like that weird girl that was being interrogated and like, Sony used to be really stupid and weird. Things like Seaman, if you've ever looked at. Yeah. And it's like, it reminds me of that sort of sensibility where they're going for something other than base formulas. They're going for feelings.
This is what I love, because obviously in the run-up to the game, a lot of the previews were kind of split into two camps. There were the people totally buying sort of Kojima's Kool-Aid and being like, yes, this is the best, most detailed thing of all time.
Glug, baby.
And then there was sort of like the other camp who were sort of rallying against it and thinking, oh, this is stupid and crap. But I like that there's the middle ground that you seem to be in, where you can sort of appreciate the sort of indulgence of it and yet still kind of think, this is daft, but still embrace it in that way. Like, Kojima's always been daft. He's always had important things to say, but they've always been delivered, in my opinion, in a sort of ham-fisted kind of over-the-top, exaggerated anime style, which is fun to revel in, and I think there is a certain amount of enjoyment, even if he is up his own arse. Just there's some enjoyment in that.
He's kind of like, he's asking you to extend the ladder and come on in.
Yes.
Like, it's like, I mean, that's the thing.
Extending a bridge and a strand.
And a bridge and a strand. And I think that, like, for me, like, you mentioned Requiem for a Dream, like, what's the dude?
Darren Aronofsky.
Darren Aronofsky. Stuff like what Aronofsky does, or Lars von Trier, or Wes Anderson, or whatever. You have all these, like, auteural isn't a word, but like signature, auteur-heavy products that what you're getting from this style of creator. And I like that Kojima's trying to carve out, or he has carved out his own sort of feel in the gaming space. I think there's more, ways that he can go. But I think that if you appreciate the idea of just free-form, blank canvas art, you give someone like Kojima or one of these creators, like, that's not a blank check, but, a full creative blank space to work with, then there's a fascination in what he comes up with. And I think that if you're up for that, if you're up for more artistically minded stuff, and it can be super pretentious stuff, but it's just being self-aware about it. I think it totally works. But like at the same time, in terms of this being this big first-party final PS4 game of the year, it isn't a big action fest. But I mean, like I said, 2 hours in, that might be too much for some people to even invest. It's an 80-20 split between cutscene and gameplay for that first 2 hours, which for some people will just be too much anyway.
Definitely, and I think it's just sort of, it's fine if like this sort of game isn't for you. I haven't played it yet. I might like play it tonight and then hate it and loathe it. But I love the fact that it is original and sort of doing something enough that that space can exist. We've complained and whined on all year about games just sort of feeling so homogenous and similar, and jumping into a game and knowing the exact controls and knowing exactly what you're going to do. And even if I don't like Death Stranding, which is, there's a good chance I might not, being realistic. I like that it is out there, and I like that people are talking about it and engaging with it in a way that they just sort of haven't with games over the past year.
Well, that's one thing to treasure the most, is with the conversation around it. Even if you come down just saying like, oh God, I can't be bothered with any of this stuff, I really don't like the way he's going about it and the script is terrible, at least you can be like thankful that someone like Sony put some money behind something like this, and that so many like, grade A actors were involved in it, and just be thankful that it exists, even if you you bounce right off it. In terms of what you said about like maybe not liking it straight away, the first mission, it doesn't hold anything back. Like you've got like, you know, like the cutscene, the first cutscene you get is the one where she's having the crypto bio.
Right.
And it's like, by the way, the rain is time and just have a bug and whatever. And then, you know, sort of from there, like the first mission is like go deliver this thing that is like 20 minutes away. And it's literally just you walking, always pressing L2, R2 to recite yourself as low roll plays in the background. Like that is the game. And like, you know, like they just go straight into it. And in terms of progression, things will be mitigated in terms of you can get vehicles and make that process easier. But you need to be up for that level of getting enjoyment out of traversing a space.
Yeah.
Like I think that's entirely what he's going for. For me, I totally love it. But again, I've only played the opening couple of hours. So we'll see kind of how it goes. But let us know what you think down in the comments below. Maybe you've picked up Death Stranding, or maybe you're just curiously waiting on the fence until there's way more definitive opinions out there. But for now, I've been Scott from WhatCulture.com.
I'm in Josh from WhatCulture.com.
I'll catch you next time. Bye.
Bye.
Crypto?
Stranding.
Crypto bio?